What is going on? This is the Leafs Convo for Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario. OakRidgeFord.com. It is Sunday, May 16th, 2021. Good to see you, Mr. Augello. OG's Converse, thanks for joining us. The 2021 NHL playoffs have begun. The Washington Capitals taking down the Boston Bruins in their series opener. We're getting ready for the Leafs Habs. Those two renew their playoff rivalry after, 40-plus years. Finally back in business in the dance. Thursday night in Toronto. Mr. Augello, right off the bat, I'm going to tell you the Leafs are going to win this series in 6. I don't think they're going to bite off more than they can chew. They are superior to the Habs, and they will prove it. Good morning.
Good morning, Norm. That was my prediction, Leafs in 6, but I caution Leaf fans out there, and Craig Button, who I have a lot of respect for, on TSN apparently predicted the Leafs would sweep in 4. I think he's sort of like doing that as sort of a trollish move that if they lose one game, then the sky is falling. But this is going to be a tough series. It really is. I mean, granted, Montreal played most of the last month without Gallagher, who's arguably their best forward, without Carey Price, their best goaltender, for significant time without Shea Weber, Philip Deneau, who's their number one checking center, who probably, if he's healthy, will play up against Austin Matthews. So a number of players, key players for the Habs, were not in the lineup. So the team that ended the regular season is not the team you'll see on Thursday. And that team was built for sort of that playoff defensive style. Now, I think the Leafs have too much offense and too much firepower, but we know from seasons past that firepower tends to disappear in close checking in the playoffs. So it's going to be a slog. It's going to be a tough situation for the Leafs to be able to break through, especially if their power play isn't working. And we'll talk about that when we preview the series later in the week. But I just think they have the superior talent. They have the experience with guys like Thornton and Spezza and Simmons and Foligno. And unless something goes massively wrong, I think they're going to win the series in 6.
This is the Leafs Convo for Oak Ridge Ford. Norm and Mike will be back Thursday morning for a series pregame program. And we may even be back Thursday night after game 1. Lots of Convo content. This is why we create content to get to this point. So we're going to get right smack dab in the middle of this hysteria that is the Leafs being in the playoffs and potentially going all the way. They have the goods. So let's all share in the excitement together. And this could be the start of a very long journey. Lots of questions from the OGs and converts, Mike, on Twitter and in community. No real process here, but I'm just going to randomly go through some of the questions. Brad on Twitter, of Thornton or Spezza, who will be the bigger X factor for the Leafs throughout the Stanley Cup playoffs?
I would have to say Spezza, because Spezza was more consistent in terms of point production during regular season. I mean, I think for points per minutes played per game, he was first in the league amongst like fourth liners. I mean, he played 10 minutes a night and he had the amount of points that he had. I think it was 25 or 30
points in 54 games.
There are first liners that don't have that many points, and he scored that. Now he had secondary power play time, but he was incredible, and it's the best $700,000 the Leafs have ever spent. And
he'll continue playing in the league as long as it's with a maple leaf on his chest, and we'd certainly like to see him generate 1,000 points for his career, and he'll only do it in Toronto. I don't see any reason why the Leafs won't extend him that opportunity. So Spezza would center a line, the fourth line, Thornton and Spezza.
Thornton and Simmons. Yeah.
Sorry, my apologies. Spezza centering a line of Thornton and Simmons.
And not just to answer the question, but not to say that Thornton isn't going to have a role, because I do think late in the season, there were people a month ago who were saying, Joe Thornton can't be in the playoff lineup. Well, he scored set points in 7 of his last 8 games. I think he was conserving himself. It's time for the playoffs. It's time for the show. Yes, he's slow, Daniel in the chat. I know he's slow, but he's still he's been slow for most of his career, and he's been able to.
Let me ask you, Mike, are the playoffs come round 3, round 4 happening at breakneck speed?
No,
absolutely not. Joe Thornton, if this is his last kick at the can, we've seen him generate offense and creativity and leadership over the last month and a bit. It's by design. He knows that if he's got anything left, this is the time to expend it. He doesn't have to worry about catching up with anybody. We're not into game 10 of a brand new regular season with a bunch of rookies out there flying around. This is going to be tough. It's going to be methodical. It's going to be tactical. And it's a guy like Joe Thornton, who's been through this bloody dance so many times before, who is going to have maybe not an integral role in the team's success, but he's certainly going to play a role. Who'd have thunk, Mike, 10 years ago when these guys were all in their prime, maybe not Simmons, but who'd have thunk that Spezza, Thornton, and Simmons, all of these big names from Ontario who've been stars on other teams, would be that final component forward-wise for the Maple Leafs in 2021?
Well, over 3,000 games of NHL experience between the three of them. I mean, I think it's going to provide a matchup nightmare for the Habs and for, if the Leafs advance into other rounds. Now, the thing is, Montreal, they loaded up before the season, and they may be best prepared based on who they're going to have on their fourth line. You're going to have Corey Perry on their fourth line. Mm-hmm. Corey Perry was a factor last year with Dallas. So it's not going to be just simply, these veteran guys overwhelming some young guys from the Habs. Their fourth line will be pretty good too. So, I mean, we'll see how it unfolds.
Anthony, he's an OG on Twitter, Leafs in 4. That's optimistic. If it were Leafs in 4, wouldn't that make great fodder for Leafs fans yelling at Habs fans on social media? Bretsky09, also on Twitter. Hey, Mike, do you think Nash makes it into the lineup for game 1? And is there a status on Hyman? 2 good questions.
Okay. First, Nash. Last week before the Wednesday game against Ottawa, Nash practiced on the third line with Mikheyev and Kerfoot playing the wing. Sheldon Keefe made sure to point out to the media that didn't mean anything in terms of what the lineup would be for game 1, but it was encouraging that Nash was able to participate in practice. I think that was for the first time since he hurt his knee at the Columbus Blue Jackets the week before the trade deadline. So he will be available. I find it hard to believe, and maybe I'm wrong, but I find it hard to believe that they will insert Riley Nash into the playoff lineup for his first game in game 1. It sort of goes against the ethic that, okay, these guys have brought you this far, and now all of a sudden we're going to go to somebody new who hasn't played a game. I think that they're going to go with, either Engvall on the third line, or maybe some other lineup where Galchenyuk gets in, but I can't see them going to Nash right away in game 1. But if they lose a game, then Nash is the perfect guy to insert into the lineup in a future game. And plus it gives him more time to, if his knee is not 100%, to completely recover. So I think that's the way they're going to go. But they could very easily just say Riley Nash, third line center, playing with Mikheyev and Kerfoot, and there's your third line. It's very possible. As for Hyman, the prognosis when he hurt his knee was 2 weeks, and he has skated in practices. The only thing that kept him out of the lineup at the end of the year was the salary cap. So he's good to go. As for where he's going to play, it could be first line, it could be third line. I think it's probably going to be first line with Matthews and Marner. He helps cover up some of the defensive, and not deficiencies, but allowing Marner and Matthews to take offensive forays. Hyman is there to cover up in case those happen. So I think Hyman will be in there in game 1.
Jeremy Scott's in the chat chat, will Galley be playing with JT and Nylander, or is Hyman or Foligno going to be there? Hyman just makes more sense on the top line if he's up for it physically. Who replace him? It just seems more authentic, true to what this team is really about. And we know that, I mean, Hyman could make the fourth line go, make third line go, second line go, but he's right there at home on the top crew with Matthews and Marner. And why would you put a guy like that on the third line if he is up for it?
Right? Well, I mean, okay, to your point, there is a familiarity there with Hyman, and that line produced at its best when Hyman was playing on it. That being said, the value of lengthening your lineup and having a third line that is a matchup issue is extremely valuable in the playoffs. That's why I've been an advocate of them having Hyman on that third line with Mikheyev and Kerfoot, or Mikheyev and Engvall, or Mikheyev and Nash, because we saw what that line did. Sure. That 3-game set with Edmonton, where that was a matchup nightmare for the Oilers, and they couldn't recover from it. That line was fantastic. But, I think
who plays on the first line, though, then, Mike? Foligno?
Then it's Foligno, and then it's Galchenyuk playing on the second line. It's all a question of who, what 12 you want in the lineup. I mean, Galchenyuk probably is an extra forward, but we know that he has worked with I think he worked with Matthews and Marner for the short time. He's a good guy to insert in there. He's got a lot to prove, and that is a good motivating factor. But I think right now, if I had to guess, it's Hyman first line, Foligno second line, and then we don't know if it's going to be Nash or Engvall playing center on that or playing on that third line.
So Jess Kaufman in community wants to know about our line choices. We have Daniel Mitz talking about, Foligno being able to play on line 3, Hyman line 1, line 2. They're all interchangeable, and we've addressed this, and we've identified it, and we applaud it. You don't have players on this team who can only slot in one component of the lineup. You have players who can move up and down the lineup based on need and necessity. And sure, we can fill out a lineup card on Thursday, but come next Thursday, that lineup could look completely different based on who's available.
And we know Sheldon Keefe throughout the year has mixed his lines. I mean, he seems to be more a guy who likes pairs than lines. Like, okay, you're not going to see Matthews and Marner broken up. You're not going to see Tavares and Nylander broken up. Over the last, I'd say, 20 games, you're not going to see Thornton and Spezza broken up. It's always the third guy who's the interchangeable. Yep. So, they could start Hyman on the third line, and if the first line's not working, then Hyman moves up to the first. I mean, that just seems to be the dynamic. So, yes, I think what you see in Game 1 is not something you might see in Game 5. It could change.
If Hyman needs a few shifts, he needs a period or two to find his way after being out for a considerable period of time. Not having him on the ice when the puck drops on the series might make sense, but Sheldon Keefe's astute enough, and he's in tune with these guys to the level of knowing exactly who can do what in which situation. And we all know Zach Hyman, if given the opportunity, is not going to turn it down. He's proven that he is a productive member of any part of this lineup, especially when he's playing with not only the two best players on the team, but two of the best players in the league. Nicholas lines on opening night: Matthews, Marner, Hyman, Tavares, Nylander, Foligno, Kerfoot, Nash, Soup, Joe, Wayne, Spezza. That's pretty much what I have penciled myself. And it's not like I'm telling tales out of school or suggesting anything radical.
The only one I debate right now is the third line. It could be Kerfoot in the middle with Engvall, who scored 4 goals in his last 5 games.
Yeah.
It could be Engvall, Kerfoot, Mikheyev, and then Nash comes in if and when needed. And I think that makes more sense. But Nicholas may be right on target.
Yeah. How big? So we're talking about the third line. We're not sure how it's going to come together, even for puck drop. But will that third line, find a group of three and go, or will there be a bit of a revolving door with players coming in and out of the lineup? The reason I'm asking is how you need all your lines to go, but how big can that third line be, not only in this Montreal series, but throughout the playoffs?
I think it could be a difference maker. One of the reasons I think Engvall is a factor here is because when he's playing the way Sheldon Keefe wants him to play, he's a matchup nightmare. 6'5", fast as the wind, big, rangy, great reach. Those are tough to, if you have that on a first line guy, those are tough to match up. On a third line guy, now when he's not on, or when he's not playing with a burr under his saddle, then it's easy to match up against him because he's not playing big. He's a 6'5" guy who's playing like he's 5'6", but he has played like a difference maker over the last week or so, presumably because he wants in on the lineup. So I think that is going to be a factor, but that's why I think he might get in there to start the series. And although you could say motivational, see, that's the thing. I don't know if I see Riley Nash going in game one and then Keefe taking him out. So it's like, it's almost a situation where, okay, I think you're better off rewarding the guy who has brought you there, meaning Engvall, even though he's been in and out of the lineup, and giving him the opportunity. And if he doesn't, give what he needs to give, then you have the grizzled veteran in Nash, who is a veteran guy and provides some physicality. And we know that Montreal is going to try to be physical and rat-like in this series, on getting underneath the skin of the league. Gallagher's going to do that. Toffoli's got
late rats.
Yeah, Toffoli has got a little bit of that in him. Josh Anderson is a big bull in a china shop. He's not as much of a rat as he is sort of a bull, and he will try to run people and make his physical advantages the Leafs' disadvantages.
In the spirit of competition and finding justification in your career progression and the culmination of everything, wouldn't Alex Galchenyuk be a guy you'd want to see take on the Habs and potentially stick it to them based on the idea that he came up with that team? Or do you think it's he doesn't have the connection to the organization like a Guy Lafleur?
No,
he's not one of the great Canadians of all time, so perhaps it's not even a big deal anymore.
And it was 4 teams ago for Galchenyuk, so
True.
But he was a former 3rd overall pick. He did score 30 goals for the Habs. It would be the knife in the back of the Canadians that Galchenyuk scores a key goal for the Leafs against them. That would that psychologically would be very hurtful to them. But I think that the Leafs are going to go with who they think the best 12 are. But like we saw last night in the Boston-Washington game, something can change right away.
For sure.
Jake DeBrusk scores a goal to tie it 1-1, and Vitek Vanacek sees the puck late and tries and strains to stop it. And it looked like he pulled or tore a groin muscle. It was definitely he stretched out oddly. And 39-year-old Craig Anderson comes in the game and wins the game for Washington.
Of course.
So, an injury, and God forbid it happens to a key player on the Leafs or on the Habs. I'm just saying, but injuries, a blocked shot, something like that affects things. So we don't know. Those are the unknown factors that will just have, that teams have to sort of roll with the punches that could occur in a game one or further on in the series.
The third line is a mix and match. The entire lineup can be altered and adjusted based on the need in the moment, save for those connected pairings that Sheldon Keefe believes are essential to driving any line. We won't take up too much more time. We can go so in depth on this.
Yeah.
But that's what we do with the convo, Mike. We are in depth, right? We've been talking about scenarios and the needs that this team needs to have to at this point to succeed. And it seems like based on who's available and the way this team has performed this season, there's no reason why it can't get out of the North Division into the semifinals and perhaps do some damage. Guys, we're getting some comments about the power play. The power play is terrible. It's big disappointment, but we can't let it overshadow the fact that the Leafs are a 5-on-5 dynamo rather, and that the Leafs are just going to have to score at every opportunity they get in the playoffs, and that's with the man advantage. Who knows? Perhaps a light goes on. Maybe it's something different. Maybe it's the intensity ratcheted up.
Maybe it's different tactics.
Sure. Yeah, sure. I don't know if the Leafs are going to unveil something that they've been working on behind closed arena doors to surprise everyone. It might be the same thing, or maybe we see a little bit more of the second unit to throw it off kilter. Bottom line, though, if this team continues to play the way it has for the bulk of the regular season, going into the playoffs against the team that it has pretty much dominated, and another team after that it's beaten to a great extent in the regular season, this team should be in the semifinals. Mike, real quick, I'm seeing a lot of criticism of Morgan Rielly. Is he just the whipping boy because he is the de facto ace on the blue line, and no matter what he does, he's just never going to be good enough?
Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, I don't think he's had a fantastic year, but I think he's been pretty decent. I think it all stems from the power play. It all stems from the ineffectiveness of the power play and the things that we've talked about on the power play, which is Morgan Rielly doesn't have a big shot. He's a distributor. And I think tactically the teams adjust to the Leafs power play by trying to close off Marner and Matthews because they don't respect Rielly's shot. I think Rielly is a fine is he the best number one defenseman in the NHL? No. I think he's probably middle of the pack number one, but these people were complaining about Morgan Rielly. If Morgan Rielly leaves after next year, you'll be complaining that they don't have Morgan Rielly. So, and if they pay him $8 million a year, you'll be complaining about them paying him $8 million a year. Yeah. So I don't know if I pay really that much attention to it. I think he's a good defenseman. I think he's a good top pairing defenseman. Mm-hmm. I think he'll jump into the attack when needs be. People are like, "Oh my God! Well, what was he doing on the one goal against Winnipeg? That game
from the cozy confines of the couch.
That game on Friday was absolutely friggin' meaningless. Yeah. You know what meant something for that game? Getting out of it healthy. That's what meant something.
Mm-hmm. No, I don't. That game was meaningless, so they did lose their last two. Is that an afterthought, Mike? Who cares?
Yeah.
There was nothing about those two games where you thought. Yeah.
I don't think anybody cares. I don't think anybody in management or in the coaching staff of the Toronto Maple Leafs cares that they lost those last two games. I think the main motivation for the team was to stay healthy. And they got Mitch Marner a game off on Friday, gave him some rest.
Yeah.
And he's probably going to be playing 22, 23 minutes a night during the playoffs. So yeah, I mean, I don't think they really care.
Yeah. So Marner would have had a complete season had they not given him that game off. 67 points in 55 games Matthews 66 points in 52 games. John Tavares didn't look great there for a while, had his slumps, but 50 points in a 56-game season. Had they played the full 82, he would eclipse a point per game.
Sure.
Willie, 17 goals, 42 points. I mean, those are your big four. Please, those guys got to stay healthy, and they have to produce, all four of them, right? All four of them. Go ahead, Mike.
But the thing that, and you mentioned it before, is that the Leafs are a 5-on-5 dynamo. In the playoffs, where you lose most of your offense is 5-on-5.
Mm-hmm.
You have to take advantage of special teams opportunities. So I am hoping that they've been essentially keeping something secret in terms of what they're going to do on the power play, like certain tactics or whatever, and they're all of a sudden they're going to reveal it in the playoffs and it's going to work, because if it's not, it's going to be a tough slog against a team like Montreal who can play defense.
Yeah, and again, we also have to be cognizant of the war of attrition that inevitably takes place over an extended playoff that is compressed but still extended, right? So the quicker you can get through games and series in order to prepare yourself for the true battles to come, the better. If this team fails to deliver when it has the opportunity to generate offense and put itself ahead in the game, the longer the process takes and the harder it becomes. Mike, who knows? I think the Leafs should be in the semifinals based on what we've seen in the regular season. That is not asinine. That makes complete sense. But Who the hell knows? Akinzeki, got to get those dirty goals on the power play in front of the goalie. The Leafs have to score in any which way, shape, or form they're capable of. I mean, dirty goal scores. Nylander can score them. Hyman can score them.
Sure. The thing is that top power play doesn't have a guy who stands in front of the net to screen a goalie like Carey Price. I mean, if you want to insert a Simmons or a Thornton or somebody like that on that top power play, or Hyman, then that would work. But right now, with the four forwards, Nylander, Tavares, Matthews, Marner, with Riley on the point, it's you'll have a guy down low, but you won't have a guy really in front of the net taking punishment. So I don't know if that works. That power play works by moving the puck quickly and getting the goaltender out of position, and they haven't been able to do that lately. But maybe that changes.
It's all part of the big reveal.
Yeah.
It's all part of the big. They've been working on it, Mike. It's the wait till you see it. Forget about the game. Forget about the lineup. Wait till we get our first power play. Wait till the Leafs don't get a power play under the third. It's these 1-0, 2-1 games into the third, man. Will have everybody biting their nails. But the drama and the theater is all part of the playoffs, and the fact that Leafs and the Habs haven't clashed in the postseason since 1979. I was just born. I mean, you were through your first marriage at that time. So it does bring back bittersweet memories. Just a few more minutes, guys. Sweet Caroline Creations. Good morning. Hi, guys, and hi, chat. Hello there, Sweet Caroline. Keep creating. We also have Akinzeki. Nicholas is here. Milspec Mom. Haven't heard from her in a while. Good morning from Oshawa. XOXO. Back at you. Morgan is the quarterback. At least he should be, but he doesn't shoot enough. Too fancy all the time. I'm hearing that. Fancy.
He does.
Is that with the fancy? Is that indecision? Is that a lack of confidence?
No,
He doesn't strike me as a fancy guy.
No, Milspec Mom. He doesn't have a big shot. I mean, he scored.
We know that, yeah.
He scored 20 goals 2 years ago. Most of them were on like shots that he got through from the point that were either deflected off of a leg or a screen. He's not Barry Beck. He's not Larry Robinson. He doesn't have a big shot from the point. He's got to score in other ways. And I think he's got two weapons on the power play in Marner and Matthews that it's right to defer to. But again, the tactics are, the teams know that the power play doesn't run through Morgan Riley; it runs through Nick Marner.
It's you're not bombing from the point and then having everyone scramble in front of the net. You have these two lethal guys, flanking the the strategy and the setup. But these guys their lanes can be clogged up, and they can be restricted, and they have been. So look, it's an odd one in that the Leafs haven't been able to figure this thing out. But if there's ever a time to do it, it's right about now. Son of El Jory, I hate that YouTube keeps unsubbing me from this channel. I don't know. They make me like Jake Paul videos. Is that true? Maybe you just do like the Jake Paul videos, but you can like his stuff, and you can like me. Is that the boxer guy, Mike? Is that the guy who
I think so. I don't know.
goes around fighting everybody?
Yeah.
I'd like to see him on skates, get into it with Wayne Simmons or something, or Tom Wilson. Brody, Riley, Muzzin, Hall, Sandine, Dermott.
Yeah.
Sandine, Dermott.
Yeah. I think what you're going to see is the top four probably play 23, 24, 25 minutes, and that pairing will play maybe 13, 14. They'll try to limit their, especially with Sandine. I mean, as well as he's played late in the year, he's still he's not technically a rookie, but he's still an experienced player, and I think he's got a lot of talent. But Bogosian hasn't skated, and everything is shrouded in secrecy when it comes to playoffs and injuries. But more than likely, if he hasn't skated yet, he probably is not going to play in this series. So you're probably going to have an interchangeable, Dermott, Sandine, Hutton, and God forbid send Martin Marincin back to Slovakia. Please.
I can't. We haven't even seen him, but his name prevails. It's like we're waiting for the
fingers on a chalkboard. That's what it is.
So what are we gonna do, Mike, if he ends up in the lineup and scores a game winner?
No, it's not happening.
We're gonna have to do.
I know that back in the day, Corey Cross scored an overtime goal.
He did.
Yes, and I just said, okay, like a broken clock is right twice a day.
Milspec mom, fair enough. Milspec, thanks for joining us. Islanders, Pittsburgh, that's going to be a blast. Minnesota, Vegas, Tampa, Florida, the battle of the Panhandle or whatever the hell, and Calgary, Vancouver. This is a lot of fun, man. I'm super excited. And I like that a bunch of these teams are going to be playing and getting going before the big series begins. Leafs and Habs.
Honestly, I'd prefer that these playoffs started like with the Leafs and the Habs. I don't want to wait 5 days. I'm a hockey junkie, and this is a series that we're focused on. I wanted it ideally to start Monday or Tuesday, but of course, because those incredibly important Calgary Vancouver games had to be played, that we had to wait. So it's asinine, but hey, it is what it is.
OG's Commerce, thanks so much for everything that you've contributed in the chats, on community, on Twitter. You can keep doing that throughout. Our next collab will be Thursday morning. You can mark it down, probably in the 8 o'clock range, 8:30. If you're one of those people who likes to be up all night and catch us sometime in the afternoon, you can just catch us on YouTube. You won't be a part of the live collab. But big deal. Our stuff lives in infamy forever, so you can get at it at any time. Last word to you, Mike, and we're out of here.
Yeah, I predicted, like I said, Leafs in 6. I predicted Edmonton in 6 in that series, but Connor Hellebuyck could be the random factor for the Jets. If he stands on his head, that could be a really long and tough series. And for the Leafs for the Leafs, if they get by Montreal, having Edmonton and Winnipeg beat up on each other is a good thing.
Edmonton scares me a little bit, Mike. They are cavalier, but they scare me. They have the best player in the league, and you just never know what kind of magic he might create. But on the flip side, the Leafs are arguably the best team in the league, easily the best team in the North based on stats. So I think the clash is inevitable. First things first, let's enjoy this Leafs Habs series, and there's going to be lots of content from us to come. So let's try to enjoy doing that too. Mike, have yourself a good one. See you Thursday.
Thanks, Norm.